All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the South Florida Tribune podcast. My name is Scott Morgan, about the Motor City Madmouth, and alongside of me tonight, across the country out in North Carolina, is a fellow by the name of Cullen Wright, the Veterans Initiatives Director for Advocate Health Advisors. And Cullen, thanks for being on the broadcast tonight.
No, thank you for having me, Scott.
You're very welcome. Well, Cullen, you guys, I met you folks here in Deerfield Beach. I actually went to what I considered a seminar dealing with Humana, and I got more than I bargained for when you were in South Florida. So let's talk about our early beginnings, and then we'll get to the business at hand.
Oh, absolutely. We were recruiting for Humana in that area. We've been a long-time partner of Humana. Advocate Health Advisors is a veteran-owned and veteran-operated business. Glad to join you right here before Memorial Day. Our CEO and founder is a retired Army colonel, as am I, and he started our company. His mother was put in the wrong policy by someone who basically he committed a crime. When Darwin was in Afghanistan, he had already worked with an agent to make sure his mother was on the right policy, and he was the healthcare director at AT&T at the time. When he came back, she's on a completely different policy that someone had just, fraudulently put her on. So he took that and made something great out of it. He decided he wanted to stand up Advocate Health Advisors and provide unparalleled support to agents and have an agent in the home to help someone like he wished his mother had received help. So that's how we got our start. We turned 15 years old this year, and we were out doing one of the big things that we do. We recruit, we sell, and we retain. And recruiting was where we met, and it turned into this. So once again, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. It can turn in potentially a lot more, but we'll get into that down the road. I do have a 215 license to do life and health insurance. Obviously, my primary responsibilities are here in the media, but then again, why not be able to help clients out down the road, especially as they get older, and inform them and educate them on the plans ahead. With that said, Cullen, let's talk about the Advocate Health Advisors being a veteran-owned and veteran-operated business and what you do.
My role in the company, I love it. We do great things for great people. It's the only health and wellness company in the nation I found that puts the time into the veterans benefit piece at the beginning. We basically look at two separate systems with a veteran's earned VA benefits, and then we look at matching the right Medicare plan for that. We find that there are so many myths and misconceptions out there around the VA benefits. I hear everywhere I go across the country, veterans say, well, I'm saving. I ask them, why are you not enrolled for your benefits? Because 60% of them are not. I ask, why are you not enrolled for your benefits? And I get two big common answers. One is, I'm saving it for somebody that needs it more than me. And I said, well, let's back up a minute. What are you saving? Because the VA is funded based on enrollments. So unless you're enrolled and you're counted in the numbers, you're not creating an it to save it for anyone. So, and veterans don't realize that. So when you sign up for those benefits, if you don't need them, then yes, there is funding in the budget that can be there for your friends if you don't need it. But more importantly, it's there for you. And then the other common thing I hear, Scott, is say, well, I'm only hurting myself. And so look, there's a ton of programs at the VA. And I said, let me just talk to you about one program called Aid in Attendance. It's basically home health care. If you get to the point where you lose two of the functions of daily living, the bathing, dressing, feeding, toileting, and mobility, if you lose two of those functions, there's a process you can go through at the VA where you can get someone to come to your home and help. We're not, you don't have a video component, but I'm a big guy. If one day I need somebody to help me, with some of the functions of daily living, I will most likely get dropped unless we have a really big helper. And then if it was my spouse, I'm going to fall on my spouse. We can both get hurt. So it's a great benefit. And then I go on and talk to them about healthcare that can transfer over to family members in certain situations, educational benefits. And we get them where they say, okay, well, the reasons I wasn't signed up for the VA are really not valid, so help me sign up. And we actually help them with that process. We do that through our relationships with service officers. A service officer is sort of, I guess for lack of a better term, kind of like a guide They'll guide you through the benefits that you have that you may or may not be using. They'll do a benefits review with you, and they help with enrollments and claims and a variety of things. And I recommend that no veteran go through that process by themselves, because those service officers out there that you can find in many different locations, that's what they do for a living. And some of them do it as volunteers in service organizations like the American Legion and the VFW. But most counties do have a tax-paid employee that helps with that. So we invest a lot of time on the front end of that. And then with our nearly 8,000 writing agents across the country, then that's when they get to use their Medicare experience. And we find that with the best of VA care, and I personally have gotten wonderful care at the VA, you could have a time problem. You may not be able to get in quick enough. You could have a distance problem. You may not necessarily want to drive 2 hours to wherever it could be. You may want to see a specialist of your choosing. The VA has always sent people, off of their facilities to utilize specialists in the civilian world. But, if Dr. Jones did your left knee, and he did such a great job with it, and your recovery was perfect, and you have to get your right knee done, and you want to go with Dr. Jones, well, he may be on your Humana plan where he might not be associated with the VA. So it just opens up a whole nother network that a veteran can use. And the fourth reason is an outside second opinion. And I've got a couple friends that utilize one utilized a United Healthcare plan, one utilized a Humana plan, and they had some very difficult to detect cancers found using their Medicare plan. So getting that outside opinion and having a second set of eyes, a second set of lab equipment, another doctor, it's just, I can't tell you how good it is when they fuse the two plans together. And neither one cancels the other out. There's myths about that out there as well. If I sign up for a VA care, it's going to kick me out of my Medicare Advantage plan. If I sign up for an Advantage plan, it's going to kick me out of my VA care. Neither of which are true. And you just have to get educated by a company like Advocate on how to use those two benefits together. So that's what we do. Love what we do at our company.
Okay, let's talk about what you do in the company with your own veterans initiatives. Explain that a little bit more to the listeners.
We take licensed health agents across the nation. We're in all 50 states and Puerto Rico. And we give them what I say is a triage level of awareness. I don't necessarily want an insurance agent to feel like they have to become an expert on the VA. But what we do is we take that team that's expressed an interest in working with that, and a lot of them are veterans, but it's certainly not a requirement. We take that team and we educate them where if they hear that someone has 2 years of active duty or more, or maybe they were injured in the line of duty, or maybe they make under a certain amount of income or things like that, we want that to be red flags for them to say, hey, I think you might should talk to a service officer. And then we encourage them to make relationships with those service officers in their community. And like I said, you can find a service officer and in a volunteer or paid capacity in your service organizations, your DAV, American Legion, VFW, and vets. There's several of them out there, Marine Corps League. You can find service officers in there. But you also have a service officer at the county level, not in all counties, but most counties have them. And it really is just as easy as Googling Broward County Veteran Services Officer and just see what you get there, for example. That's a government employee. They work for you as a taxpayer. They don't work for the VA. And not that you can't get a good experience at the VA, but, the VA employee has to live with that VA boss when we leave. So I find that the county service officers are my sweet spot because they seem to really push hard for the veterans to get the benefits they deserve. And they're accredited. And they have a habitual relationship with the approval authority. So that's what they do every day, because some of the paperwork is easy with the VA, like the 1010 Easy form is very easy. But when you get into a claims process, that's when it's really crucial that you have a service officer helping you with that.
So if I understand you correctly, what you do is you show veterans how to use their VA benefits so that you can write the correct Medicare plans to get the best health care possible. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And we have another misconception is that, every veteran's eligible for VA, and that's not the case. There's some time and service requirements and that will get you eligible, and then there's some qualification requirements that will get you qualified, and you have to make it through both gates. So not every veteran is eligible for VA benefits. And for those that are, we want to find out, what does the VA do for you? What do they not do for you? And then we put the plan with it that's the best fit for them. For example, you may have a veteran that uses the VA for all their prescription medications. You have carriers in the field, Humana, Aetna, United Healthcare, to name just three, that have developed a plan that's a Medicare Advantage plan, but it doesn't have prescription drugs with it. So it's a perfect fit for a veteran. And we find that most of these plans come at a very low premium or a zero premium. So you get to offer a veteran that's already paying that Part B premium just a whole nother level of health care at no potential additional cost with a zero premium product.
Okay, let's talk about the partnership that you have with the Vietnam 50th Commemorization Association. You say that this association provides recognition materials to Vietnam veterans on the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam, and that you actually do pinning ceremonies and a little bit from the president and some other items that are given to the veteran and their surviving spouse. Why don't you go into more details with that, Cullen?
Thank you. So proud of that relationship. We were the first health and wellness company in the nation to become a partner with the Vietnam 50th Commemoration Association, and we've had several other carriers follow suit. Humana's a partner, and it gives us a way to say thank you. I think in our leadership team alone at Advocate Health Advisors, we have over 100 years of military experience combined. We've all been deployed multiple times. Every time I've come home, I've been treated embarrassingly good. So the Vietnam veterans that we come into contact with, and that is our demographic of veteran in the Medicare space, they were treated terribly when they came back. They were treated bad by the public. They were even treated bad by some service organizations. I've heard horror stories about that. They just were not treated well. And even, you hear the guys talk about the VA, that we're not nice to them. So this gives us a way to say, welcome home. Thank you for your service. And I tell them, I personally have reaped the benefits, as has our CEO and founder, Darwin Hale. We personally reap the benefits of our Vietnam-era veterans saying, never again will we allow our veterans to be treated in such a manner when they come home. And I take great pride in those pinning ceremonies. I spend time to shake every hand and tell every person that story I just told you. So we're very proud of our ability to participate with the Vietnam 50th Commemoration Association.
Let me go over a couple things about the Vietnam War. I think everybody has things that they can talk about. First of all, it was a war that should never have happened in the first place. I rarely ever talk politics on there, but I'm going to make a couple of key points. I had an uncle, thankfully still alive, that had Agent Orange, and thankfully he got around it all right. But I view the Vietnam War as the veterans were treated like Rodney Dangerfield, where they never got any respect. And I certainly appreciate the fact that Muhammad Ali protested and threw his gold medal away because he didn't want to participate in it. So when you talk about a war that did not need to take place, okay, and I'm glad it ultimately got resolved as time went on, if there was ever a waste of war, this was definitely, the Vietnam War indeed was.
I don't know anyone that I would consider to be a good war, whether they're a just war or not. Not my purview. I show up and I salute and I do what I'm told. But all wars, take their toll, and we wish we could put that whole dynamic of human interaction in the rearview mirror forever.
I agree with you, and I know the only reason I'm referencing Vietnam is because obviously that you're commemorating a war that got a lot of disrespect. So that's really a compliment towards what you guys are really doing to bring out the best of what we consider a really bad situation that should never have taken place in the first place. I won't elaborate on that. It's nothing more than kudos to what is taking place here with the in terms of the partnership. That's really where we're at with that. So So let's talk about a success story or two of some veterans that you've helped.
My very first veteran, love this guy, was in the military with his son, Frank Babbitt down in Naples. If you're listening, hello, Frank, and happy belated birthday from a couple weeks back. My good friend Frank, Navy veteran, he was a plank holder on the Independence when it rolled out of the Brooklyn Navy Yard. So Frank he's been there, done that. Good guy. Frank was buying his prescription medications over the counter, full retail price, because he had heard about a prescription drug penalty, but didn't know really how bad it was not. So to avoid the penalty, he was just paying full retail price. Frank's medications were costing him $2,400 a month. And as a result, we ended up getting Frank his VA benefits. And now he gets that $2,400 worth of retail medication on outside the VA. He gets those from the VA for $8 a month. Huge impact in his life, 20-something thousand a year. Frank also got a couple pieces of durable medical equipment worth several thousands of dollars. The VA does a tremendous job, great durable medical equipment. And he also was entitled to a small disability compensation pension that he hadn't sought after prior to working with Advocate. And I can tell you one of the things that Frank is a testimonial to, we're here for our veterans. When we looked at Frank's insurance, we left his insurance alone. He was in the right plan. But as far as his VA piece and the prescription medication piece, that needed to change. So super excited about what we did for Frank there. He's one of my favorite stories. And he's not alone. If you go to our website, advocateforveterans.com, spell out the word for, advocateforveterans.com. We've got a whole testimonial and video section on there, and you'll see there's one guy on there that had a high-cost supplement that just couldn't afford it and had to let it go. There was a gentleman there that was on original Medicare only and just didn't. He's very healthy, doesn't take any medicines, and when you shake his hand, you know you're shaking somebody's hand. But I said, hey, one day when you have to start utilizing your Medicare, do you know that's an 80-20 split? I lived this with my mother the last 3 years of her life on original Medicare only. And every time I tell an insurance professional that, they make the face like, that was not the best way to do it. And, we were just victims of not knowing what we didn't know. And the 80-20 split, there's no cap on that 20. So if you put a veteran in an Advantage plan, in addition to all the phenomenal preventative and proactive things they do, you've given them a ceiling on their out-of-pocket expenses. That in and of itself is an improvement over having someone on just original Medicare only. And you can't have an Advantage plan on the market anyway, unless it has everything original Medicare has in it, plus more. So I love those stories. Frank was my first, and I don't think I'll find anybody that I'll make that big an impact in ever again. But, I'm still looking, and I don't think I've ever been somewhere where we haven't found at least one veteran that, could shave a couple $100 off here or there, get a little bit better care for a little bit lower cost. So that's some of the stories that we've replicated hundreds of times across the United States.
How often do you come to South Florida? I imagine that this is a relatively big market for you, isn't it?
Well, we are. I sort of live out of a suitcase. My boss gives me leeway to travel beyond the Carolinas frequently. You've got 4 big hubs of veterans 65 and older. You've got Florida, Texas, Southern California, and then that New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania pocket there. And in that area, there's millions of veterans in those areas. So I'll sort of bounce back and forth between those. And then we have some strong veterans relationships through the VFW and the American Legion, which take us to literally every state in the nation. So I enjoy my travel, and it's always fun, and it's tough duty. Somebody has to go out and have a beer and eat popcorn with these guys and, just twist my arm, I'll do it. But no, seriously, we do a lot of great educational seminars and sales seminars at those locations that really help. I say it again, we just do great things for great people. I love what we do.
So what you're telling me is that Florida, Texas, North Carolina, and Southern California are your biggest markets?
The Carolinas is big because I live here, so I've got kind of business to do in my own backyard. But as far as your density of veteran populations, your top states for that are Texas, Florida, Southern California, and New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, that region.
All right, so New York, New Jersey, and of course the Pennsylvania region. Interesting. Okay, so now you said you wanted to talk about Memorial Day, so give me a reflection on that.
Well, we do. For many people, Memorial Day, it just signifies the start of the summer. And, we have a wonderful country. If you've traveled around the world and you come back home, you just breathe a sigh of relief as soon as those tires hit the ground on the airplane. But, because of, how good a country we have, it can be easy to overlook the significance of Memorial Day. As in years past, since I think Memorial Day started in late May of 1868, we paused the last Monday in May of every year to honor the men and women who died in defense of our nation. And, we accept this willingly as our homage to them, to their sacrifice, and, we want their sacrifice to never be in vain. And the 2020 Memorial Day is special because it lines up with a few marks in history that I'd like to highlight. This year, we mark the 155th anniversary of the Civil War ending, the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II, the 70th anniversary of the start of the Korean War, the 45th anniversary of our final departure from Vietnam, and the 30th anniversary of Operation Desert Shield and the lead up into the Gulf War. And we honor and remember all of those who perished in those wars. And as well, and more recently, a little more in my time, although I am old enough to participate in Desert Storm as a young second lieutenant, we have nearly 7,000 American service members who have given their lives in service of our country since September 11, 2001. So as we do this Memorial Day, this Memorial Day observance is going to be a bit different. We've got the COVID-19, going on between self-isolation, social distancing, limitations on public events. I know some of our national memorials are closed. Your plans are probably going to be a little bit different. They're going to change. You'll probably most likely, have a small home gathering where, I would just personally ask that you please spend a little time reflecting on the sacrifices paid so we can enjoy those freedoms that we enjoy today. You'll have people sometimes, and veterans are a very forgiving demographic, but you'll have people say Happy Memorial Day. And, it's more of a reflective and somber day. We don't want to be the buzzkill police, but it really is. It's a time to reflect on the sacrifices made and appreciate what we've gotten. And I would encourage when we do return to some normalcy, revisit the traditions of traveling to our national cemeteries. If you've never been to Arlington or you've never seen the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, pay tribute and visit that. If you can't make those trips, there's hundreds of memorials across our country. So just maybe put that on the horizon as we return to normalcy. And I guess I would give a shout out to the families of our fallen patriots. We just don't have the words to describe how you feel on Memorial Day. Try as we must, and we must. We'll never really fully know, but we do know that your sacrifice is what it means to us and our country, and that we depend so much on those sacrifices to build the security and freedoms that we have here in America.
Well, I'll tell you what, Memorial Day will be different in a lot of ways. First of all, you're in the heart of NASCAR country, and the Coca-Cola 600 is going on Sunday, but guess what? There ain't going to be any fans, but at least they're still keeping the race anyhow, albeit with no fans. Are you a NASCAR fan, Cullen?
I've been, and everybody drives just as fast as I do on the way to work, except they're always just turning in one direction. So, no, I'm just picking. I don't know. Yeah, I am. I've actually had some opportunities to, in another life, do a little shooting instruction, and some of the NBA guys and NASCAR guys in the local area have been some of our clients on some shooting instructions. So just a good group of people. Yeah,
I actually, when I was in the Carolinas a few years ago, I ended up going ahead and taking a couple laps around the Charlotte Motor Speedway with another driver, and it was a blast. But I've always been,
wow.
I'm like you. I mean, I like to put my foot there, called that thing called a lead foot. And the interstates, to me, and I've been on a few tracks. I've been to Phoenix. I've been to Michigan International Speedway, been to Indianapolis. I think it's Martinsville, Virginia, right outside of Stewart, and took 27 laps over there. Had a blast. I always say, there's 12 commandments. Thou shalt not overpay what you subscribe to. And the 12th is, thou shalt not get caught. So we'll bring Moses into this Memorial Day thing a little bit. And I have no problem doing it. But yeah, Indianapolis 500 is certainly a lot different too. So I think it's really neat. I think what you do has a tremendous amount of merit to it. And I'm looking forward, as time goes on, that we'll be able to continue to educate the public. But you're right. I mean, another thing I should point out, Arlington Cemetery, for anybody out there, this is a bucket list item. And I repeat, a bucket list item. I was there before, saw the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Is he still there, or did they finally actually go ahead and find who it was and moved him to the proper place? I'm trying to remember. But I know the Kennedys are there, and, one of my favorite people, believe it or not, Frank Reynolds, remember him, the broadcaster?
You have so many famous names there in Arlington. It's amazing if you have the time to spend a day there or take a guided tour. And they actually have a self-guided tour. Put on the little headset there. That is, like you said, that is a absolute bucket list item. And if you can make it over to the Tomb of the Unknown, to see the changing of the guard, there's just so much to do in the nation's capital. In 34 years in the Army, I had the opportunity to serve at the Pentagon a couple times, and I would spend weekends taking them to local sites, and probably a total of 5.5 years in that area. And there's still things I want to go see.
Yeah, I've been to
bucket list for sure.
Yeah, I've been to the Washington D.C. metropolitan area. I've gone there for some sporting events. I went to Baltimore one time to see the Detroit Tigers and the Baltimore Orioles, and I've seen a few Lions games against the Redskins. One at the old RFK Stadium, the other one at the other place, FedEx Field, I think it was. But I always found a way to take a side trip. One time I went to George Washington's thing out in Mount Vernon, and yes, Arlington Cemetery was one of those things. So there's a lot to do in the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area. And I thoroughly enjoyed Arlington Cemetery. I'm looking forward to taking my other half over there. So there's a lot of interesting things to see out in that area without a doubt. And I think when it comes full circle to talk about Memorial Day, a lot of those activities pertaining to this holiday definitely center around what you're talking about. So meanwhile, it's been great having you on. Let me go over some. Why don't you go ahead and let everybody out there know how they can find you, Cullen?
Our website, thanks, Scott. Our website, advocateforveterans.com, has a quiz link on there. And you can, if you know a veteran, the two demographics that I would recommend take that quiz is if you know a veteran that's not using the VA, and there's a veteran that uses original Medicare only. There's not a whole lot of alwayses in the world, but that one's pretty close. We want to talk to that veteran that doesn't use the VA. At least we give them an educated professional assessment of, are you eligible and qualified or are you not? So the quiz asks the three questions. Do you use your VA coverage? Do you know the different ways you can use Medicare? Because there's several different ways you can, sort of eat the Medicare elephant. And then do you know how to use the two together? And they put their contact information in there, and that comes directly to myself. And I have a young lady that works for me, wonderful, lifelong servant of veterans, Christina Lonegro. And we go through this. We make contact person with every single person who goes to that and takes the quiz. And we will give you, at no cost, no obligation, assessment of, are you entitled to VA benefits or not? Do we think you should go sit down with a service officer or not? And then we want them to do that part first, like I said, because we need to know, do you have a time distance problem? Do you have a specialist access problem? Do you need second opinions? Is there, what itch do we look to scratch with the fit of a Medicare plan? So that's the best way, and there's informative information there for you. We're also on Facebook. We're also on YouTube. We have links to all of our social media platforms on our webpage. So I would encourage you to go out and look at all those. And the biggest thing we can do is, we do not have a product problem. When we sit down with a veteran or any client that's in the Medicare space, and we tell them what we can do for them to enhance health and welfare and help them to get better care at the lowest possible cost we can. We want to maximize their options and minimize their costs. They're like, oh my God, why didn't anybody tell us about this before? So we do not have a product problem. Our product, I won't say it sells itself, but it is such a good thing to do for people that we just have a messaging problem. So just help me get the word out. If a veteran has any doubt, have them go to the website. We'll give them an analysis and referral, and not just veterans, but anyone in the Medicare space, typically 65 and older. You can be Medicare eligible under age 65 if you've been on Social Security disability for 24 months. You become Medicare eligible. But anyone in the Medicare space, that's what we do, and we can look and we can give you something that not all companies can give, because we have about 3 dozen carriers across the U.S. So, you don't go to the Acme store and get sold only an Acme plan. You come to us and we have a wide variety of menu of options to put you in. So that's where I would start, is our webpage and our social media platforms. And then we also have the ability for agents to call into our office, and we've got our office number for any interested agents that want to join. They can call into our office and speak with one of our partners there at 1-800-709-5513. That's an agent-facing number. That one's not really member-facing for clients, but for agents who want to participate with us, we'd love to have you join our team. I need all the help I can get from licensed health agents across the country to help us help not only our veterans, but our Medicare population as a whole.
Okay, let everybody know how they can get a hold of us. I have 2 separate Twitter accounts. The first one is Scoop, SCOOP 33333. That's 5 of them. Or you can follow us there. You can follow us at Tribune South. The @ sign with Tribune South. On Facebook, you can follow us there as well. I don't know if you're big on hat tricks, Cullen, but here's one for you. Facebook is South Florida Tribune. Like us, you'll get all the updates from all the broadcasts that come on here. You can follow us on South Florida Tribune on Instagram. Our YouTube channel is South Florida Tribune. You guessed it, there's the old hat trick. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. You can also follow me, myself, and Scott Morganroth, on LinkedIn. Now, you are listening to the World Sports and News Network, WSAN. Our shows are the Sports Exchange, which we'll have 2 episodes on a little bit later. The South Florida Tribune podcast, which you are listening to now with myself and Cullen Wright. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, our show exclusively designed to talk baseball. The Real and the Rare with Xavier McKnight. Fantasy Football with myself and Ryan Skolrud. Motorman and Rude Dog is another broadcast, and our brand new broadcast, which Cullen will be appearing on in a few weeks, is called No Limits. And that No Limits will definitely live up to its name, No Limits. You can go ahead and find these broadcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, CastBox, Podcast Addict, Deezer, and Podchaser. So wherever you can get your broadcasts, feel free to check us out, download, and subscribe, and listen to them. When you have a broadcast like this, when you're talking about advocate health, veterans, this is one broadcast I encourage you, and I consider it a must listen. So, Cullen, it was a pleasure meeting you in Deerfield Beach. I certainly look forward to seeing you when you return to the area, or when I get to North Carolina, whatever comes first. And I think that this is a great opportunity to reach the veterans. And of all times, we couldn't have timed it better over the Memorial Day weekend. So, on behalf of Cullen Wright, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Mad Mouse, saying good evening, everybody. Any final words, Cullen?
Thanks for having me on, Scott.
It's my pleasure. Look forward to the next time. Meanwhile, folks, the Sports Exchange is coming up next. Have a great night and have a great Memorial Day weekend here at WSAN Network.